There is a mystery that lies deep within the human soul, a truth that transcends mere biology and touches the very essence of who we are. Intimacy, when shared with the right person, is not just a physical act, not just a merging of bodies, but a profound spiritual union. To be truly intimate with the right person is to encounter yourself in the most sacred mirror. It is to feel seen not only for your smile or your words, but for your wounds, your dreams, your fears, and your deepest longings. It is a reminder that love, when authentic, has the power to awaken dormant parts of the soul. But what truly happens spiritually when you are intimate with the right person? Let us uncover this in 5 key dimensions. There is a certain mystery that unfolds when two souls meet in the right alignment, when intimacy is not born from desperation or the hunger of the flesh alone, but from a deeper recognition that calls one spirit to another. In this meeting, one begins to realize that intimacy is not the superficial exchange of gestures or the fleeting satisfaction of desire, but the revelation of something hidden, a truth that lies buried in the silent chambers of the heart. When you are intimate with the right person, you are struck by the sense that you are not merely being looked at but truly seen, not merely being heard but deeply understood. It is as if your life, with all its complexity, finally finds a mirror that does not distort, but reflects your essence with clarity and gentleness. This recognition is not of the body alone, it is the soul's recognition. And recognition is the beginning of transformation. To feel seen by another is to awaken parts of yourself that you may have long forgotten or denied. Many of us go through life wearing masks, presenting to the world what we think will be accepted, hiding away the fragile, uncertain, or wounded aspects of who we are. We conceal our fears, our insecurities, and even our quiet longings, fearing rejection or misunderstanding. Yet, when the right person comes into your life, the masks begin to fall away almost effortlessly. Their presence feels safe enough for you to lay down your armor. You do not have to explain every detail of your being, for they seem to already sense it. Think of 2 instruments tuned to the same key. When one vibrates, the other responds. This is resonance, and in human terms, it is the rare experience of being known without having to justify yourself. Imagine the weight that lifts when you are with someone who notices the subtle tremor in your voice when you are anxious, who recognizes the light in your eyes when you speak of something you love, who understands your silence not as distance but as depth. In that moment, intimacy transcends the ordinary. It is not about words or gestures. It is about an alignment so profound that you feel as though you have been found. This recognition carries with it a deep spiritual power. To be seen by another in truth is to be reminded that you are not alone in the vastness of existence. For many, life often feels like a solitary journey. You move through experiences, joys, and sorrows, wondering if anyone could ever truly understand the inner storms you weather. But when intimacy with the right person opens, it is as though a light is cast into those hidden corners, illuminating them without judgment. Suddenly, what was once lonely becomes shared, what was once heavy becomes lighter. This does not mean the other person carries your burden for you. Rather, their presence affirms that your burden is not invisible, and sometimes that recognition is enough to give you strength you did not know you had. In real life, such moments of recognition may come quietly. You might be sitting across from someone in silence, and without words, they reach for your hand, and you realize they know exactly what you are feeling. Or perhaps you are struggling with self-doubt, and they look at you with a gaze that says, "I see who you are, and you are more than enough." In that gaze, the old wounds of inadequacy begin to heal. Love, in its truest form, does not demand that you become someone else. It calls forth the person you already are, affirming your worthiness without condition. But this recognition is not only comforting, it is also confronting. To be seen by another means that your shadows, too, are visible. The parts of yourself you have tried to deny or suppress may suddenly come to light, and yet, with the right person, even this confrontation becomes sacred. Their recognition does not condemn, but invites you to integrate these hidden aspects of yourself. In their presence, you begin to realize that you are not fractured, that your shadows are not evidence of unworthiness, but part of the wholeness of your being. This is why intimacy with the right person is so transformative. It awakens you not only to love, but to the deeper work of becoming whole. Think of the countless people who move through relationships feeling unseen, forced to perform, or silenced in their truth. Their souls remain hungry, searching for resonance, but never finding it. Contrast this with the profound nourishment that comes when you are truly recognized. It is like a parched land receiving rain. Suddenly life springs forth where before there was only dryness. This is not to romanticize the right relationship as the solution to all human struggle, but to honor the fact that authentic recognition is rare and therefore sacred. When it comes, it is not to be taken lightly. It is a gift, one that asks you to respond with equal honesty and vulnerability. Spiritually, this recognition is an echo of something eternal. It suggests that beneath the individuality of our lives, there is a shared essence, a common ground of being that unites us. When you feel deeply recognized by another, it is not only their eyes that see you, it is life itself affirming your existence. It is as though the universe whispers through their presence, "You are real, you are valuable, you are loved." This is why intimacy with the right person feels like coming home, not because they complete you, but because they remind you of what has always been within you. The truth of your soul, the dignity of your being, the light that no shadow can extinguish. And so, intimacy with the right person does not simply offer comfort, it demands growth. It does not merely affirm who you are, but calls you toward who you are meant to become. Recognition is the beginning of this journey. Once your soul has been seen, you can no longer hide from yourself. You are invited into a deeper authenticity, a more courageous way of living. In this way, intimacy becomes not only a source of joy, but also a path of transformation. Thus, when you find yourself with someone who sees you as you truly are, do not dismiss it as ordinary. Such recognition is a sacred event. It is the soul's way of reminding you that life is not meant to be lived in isolation, but in resonance. To be intimate with the right person is to discover that love is not merely an emotion, but a spiritual awakening, one that reveals the hidden depths of who you are, and affirms that you are not alone in your journey. It is, perhaps, the closest we come to touching eternity in the presence of another human being. There is no human life untouched by suffering. From the earliest days of our childhood, we encounter experiences that leave impressions on the soul, moments of neglect, rejection, loss, or disappointment that carve themselves into our being. Some of these wounds are visible, expressed in tears, in broken trust, in words left unspoken. Others remain hidden, buried deep beneath layers of silence, where they wait unresolved, festering quietly in the unconscious. They become shadows that shape our choices, the unseen hands guiding us toward fear, defensiveness, or patterns of self-sabotage. We may convince ourselves that time alone will heal them, but time without love often leaves them dormant rather than healed. Yet when intimacy is shared with the right person, something miraculous occurs. What was once a scar of isolation becomes a doorway to connection, and what was once pain begins to transform into growth. This healing is not the work of logic or reason, it is the work of presence. Imagine a person who, throughout their life, has carried the weight of rejection. Perhaps as a child they were overlooked, made to feel invisible in the very home that should have offered them belonging. That pain did not vanish when they grew older. Instead, it lived quietly in the soul, manifesting as doubt, as the relentless suspicion that they are unworthy of love. Left alone, this wound hardens into belief, a prison from which they cannot escape. But then the right person enters their life. In every embrace, in every word of affirmation, they are told without speech, "You are enough. You are loved as you are." Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the prison door begins to open. The wound does not disappear, it is not erased from history, but it is held within a love that no longer condemns it. This is the alchemy of intimacy, pain transmuted into wisdom, scars softened into symbols of survival. Science affirms what the spirit has long known. Studies in psychology and neuroscience reveal that secure, supportive relationships regulate the stress responses of the brain and body. When a loving partner is near, cortisol levels lower, heart rates stabilize, and anxiety decreases. The body literally remembers safety in the presence of another. But beyond these biological truths lies the deeper spiritual reality, that love itself is medicine. Love does not deny that wounds exist. It does not force you to forget your pain or pretend it never happened. Instead, it offers a sacred space where you may confront your hurt without fear of judgment, where you may grieve without shame, and where your tears become part of a shared human experience rather than a solitary exile. In this space, intimacy reveals its highest form, not a distraction from wounds, but a sanctuary for their transformation. Many of us are afraid to expose our pain. We fear it will drive others away, that if we show the rawness of our grief or the depth of our scars, we will be abandoned. Yet the right person does not flee from these revelations. Instead, they draw nearer not to fix or to erase, but to witness. And in that witnessing, the soul begins to heal. For what is shame, if not the fear of being seen and rejected? And what is healing, if not the experience of being seen and still loved? Think of a lover who listens when words falter, who holds you not because you are perfect, but because you are human. Think of a friend or partner who reminds you through small, consistent acts that you are worthy of tenderness. These gestures may seem ordinary, but they carry profound spiritual weight. To the person who has lived a lifetime of feeling unworthy, a simple touch can become an anthem of belonging. To the one who has feared abandonment, the steady presence of a partner who stays can become a balm against years of silence. Slowly, the walls built to protect the heart begin to fall, not through force, but through trust. Healing through intimacy is not without struggle. There will be moments when the old wounds flare, when suspicion whispers, "This cannot last. You are not worthy." There will be times when fear urges retreat, when vulnerability feels unbearable. But the right person does not abandon in those moments. They remain, embodying patience, reminding you through presence that healing is not a destination but a process. And in their constancy, you learn to remain present with yourself as well. You begin to trust not only them, but also your own capacity to be loved. This is perhaps the greatest gift intimacy offers, the reawakening of self, worth that has long been buried. In myths and stories across cultures, healing is often depicted as a return to the sacred waters, to the mother's embrace, to the lost home. Intimacy with the right person carries a similar symbolism. It is a return to the place where you once felt broken and discovering that this place can now be held in love. It is a return to the wound, not with fear, but with the courage to integrate it into your story. This is not to suggest that another person heals you completely. The work of healing always belongs to the self, but in the sanctuary of love, the work becomes possible where before it felt unbearable. Consider how many lives ruled by their unhealed wounds, pushing away love, sabotaging opportunities, mistrusting joy because their pain has convinced them that suffering is their only truth. To such souls, intimacy with the right person is revolutionary. It shows them that their pain is not destiny. It shows them that the past, while indelible, is not inescapable. It whispers that even brokenness can be made whole again when held in the light of love. And so, when intimacy becomes a sanctuary, the soul experiences renewal. The scars do not vanish, nor should they. They remain as reminders of the journey, but they no longer dictate the path ahead. Instead, they become symbols of resilience, proof that even in the presence of suffering, healing is possible. In the embrace of the right person, wounds become teachers, and love becomes the classroom in which we learn that the human spirit was never meant to carry its pain alone. This is the miracle of intimacy when it is authentic. It transforms what once defined us as broken into what now defines us as whole. It allows us to stand in our truth, scars and all, and still be loved. And in that love, we discover not only the healing of our wounds, but also the profound realization that we were never beyond redemption, never beyond belonging, and never beyond love's capacity to restore us. There is a mysterious quality in the meeting of two souls that cannot be explained by the physical alone. We are accustomed to speaking of intimacy in terms of desire, attraction, or the needs of the body. But beneath these visible layers, there is something far greater at work. When you are with the right person, intimacy becomes an exchange of energy so profound that it awakens something sleeping within you. Every kiss, every embrace, every tender glance becomes more than a gesture. It becomes a prayer of gratitude, an offering to life itself. This is not the exhaustion of passion consumed for the sake of the flesh, but the renewal of the spirit through the sacred union of two beings who recognize one another in truth. Across time and culture, humanity has always sensed that intimacy carries a dimension beyond the material. Ancient traditions spoke of it as a divine act, a channel through which sacred energy could flow and awaken the hidden depths of the self. In Tantra, intimacy was revered as a form of spiritual practice, where two bodies became the vessels of cosmic union. In other traditions, the meeting of man and woman was seen as a reenactment of the harmony of heaven and earth, a sacred alignment through which life itself was celebrated. Though our modern world often strips intimacy of this sacred meaning, reducing it to transaction or entertainment, the soul has not forgotten. Deep within us, there remains a longing for the kind of connection that does not deplete, but elevates, that does not consume, but creates. You can feel the difference when you encounter the right person. With some, intimacy leaves you hollow, drained, as though your very life force has been diminished. It is like eating food that tastes sweet in the moment, but poisons you afterward, leaving your spirit sluggish and your heart heavy. But with the right person, intimacy nourishes. It feeds the soul in the same way that clean water refreshes the body. You emerge not weakened but strengthened, not emptied but filled with vitality and clarity. You find yourself able to face life with renewed courage, as though the energy exchanged between you has unlocked hidden reserves of strength. Think of a time when you shared a moment of closeness that was more than physical, when the touch of another person carried with it a depth of meaning that words could not capture. Perhaps it was the way they held you in silence when you were afraid, or the way their kiss spoke not of possession but of reverence. These moments are not ordinary. They are charged with a kind of electricity that awakens the sleeping parts of the self. In them you remember that you are more than flesh and bone. You are a soul capable of giving and receiving sacred energy. This is why intimacy with the right person feels like inspiration. It is not confined to the bedroom or to moments of passion. It spills into the rest of your life, influencing the way you create, the way you speak, the way you move through the world. Artists often speak of muses, figures who awaken their creativity simply by their presence. In truth, intimacy with the right person acts in much the same way. It stirs the imagination, clears the fog of the mind, and ignites the fire of purpose. A writer may find words flowing more easily. A leader may discover newfound confidence, or an ordinary person may feel an extraordinary sense of possibility simply because their soul has been nourished by love's sacred exchange. But this awakening is not only creative, it is also deeply spiritual. When you are intimately connected with the right person, the boundaries of the self begin to soften. You feel yourself expanding beyond the narrow confines of I, and entering into a deeper experience of we. This is not a loss of individuality, but an expansion of it. You begin to sense that the energy flowing between you is not simply yours or theirs, but something greater, something that belongs to life itself. In such moments, intimacy becomes a doorway to transcendence, a fleeting but undeniable glimpse into the eternal. The sacredness of this exchange lies in its reciprocity. Both give, both receive, and in that giving and receiving, both are elevated. It is not domination, nor is it dependence. It is balance, harmony, the meeting of equals who pour into one another not to take, but to share. This reciprocity creates a cycle of renewal that sustains the bond. One returns from such encounters with more energy, more clarity, more strength to offer in return. Thus, the relationship itself becomes self-sustaining, a wellspring of vitality rather than a drain. It is important to recognize that this sacred exchange cannot be forced. It cannot be manufactured through mere physicality or pursued through lust alone. It emerges only in the presence of authenticity, trust, and truth. Without these, intimacy may excite the body, but will starve the soul. With them, however, every touch becomes a sacrament, every shared breath a reminder that life is holy. Consider how different the world might be if more people understood intimacy in this way. How many are caught in cycles of emptiness, seeking connection but finding only depletion? How many confuse temporary excitement with lasting nourishment? The epidemic of loneliness in our modern age is not only about isolation, but about the starvation of the soul for sacred connection. To be intimate with the right person is to step out of this famine and into abundance. It is to experience, even if only for a moment, the truth that life is not meaningless, that love is not illusion, and that the soul is not condemned to wander alone. This is why intimacy, when shared with the right person, awakens something so profound within us. It is a reminder that we are not merely physical beings navigating a material world, but spiritual beings capable of union, capable of touching the divine through one another. It is a reminder that love is not an escape from reality, but the most powerful affirmation of it. To feel this exchange is to feel alive in the fullest sense, as though every fiber of your being has been reawakened to the beauty and possibility of existence. And so, when the right person enters your life and you experience intimacy that nourishes rather than drains, recognize it as the sacred gift it is. Such moments are rare, but when they come, They carry the power to transform not only the relationship, but the whole of your life. For in that sacred energy exchange, you are reminded of the deepest truth, that to love and be loved in truth is to awaken the spirit, to breathe new life into the soul, and to touch, however briefly, the eternal mystery that binds us all. There is a subtle but profound connection between love and purpose, though many fail to recognize it. When we share our life with someone misaligned with our soul, we begin to feel the dissonance almost immediately. Confusion settles in like a fog. We find ourselves questioning our worth, our choices, even our very direction in life. Energy is consumed not in creation or growth, but in endless battles for validation, for acceptance, for peace. One becomes exhausted, as though every step is taken against the current, pulled away from the natural flow of one's true self. But when intimacy is shared with the right person, the opposite takes place. Instead of being drained, you feel illuminated. Instead of confusion, there is clarity. Instead of being diminished, your sense of purpose is strengthened and revealed. The right person does not require you to abandon yourself. They do not demand the sacrifice of your dreams at the altar of their insecurity, nor do they ask you to silence your truth for the sake of their comfort. Rather, they act as a mirror that reflects back to you the person you have always been capable of becoming. Their love does not shrink you, it expands you. Their presence does not suppress your voice. It gives you the courage to speak with greater conviction. Where once you may have hesitated to step into your gifts, fearing ridicule or rejection, the right partner whispers through their encouragement, "I see you, I believe in you." Do not hide what was meant to shine. Imagine the one who has always carried within them a secret longing to create art, to sing, to write, to paint, but years of criticism, comparison, or self-doubt caused them to bury this desire. Alone, they convinced themselves it was foolish, unworthy of pursuit. Yet in the presence of the right partner, this longing stirs again. When someone who loves you looks at your canvas and says, "This is beautiful. Why did you ever stop?" or listens to your hesitant melody and responds with awe rather than judgment, a fire is rekindled. Suddenly, what seemed impossible feels necessary, even inevitable. In that love, permission is granted not only to dream again, but to act. This reawakening is not limited to creativity. Some return to spiritual practices long forgotten, drawn back to meditation, prayer, or contemplation, because their partner affirms the importance of nourishing the inner life. Others rediscover ambitions they had abandoned, whether in their careers, their studies, or their service to others. In every case, the pattern is the same. Love opens the door to clarity. With the right person, the soul is no longer suffocated by the constant noise of insecurity and fear. Instead, it breathes freely, listening again to the inner voice that was always there but had been drowned out by the demands of misaligned relationships. Purpose does not reveal itself through force. It emerges in stillness, in honesty, in the quiet knowing of the heart. But when life is filled with conflict, when one is trapped in the exhausting pursuit of trying to be enough for the wrong person, that stillness is impossible. It is like trying to see your reflection in disturbed water. The image is broken, chaotic, unclear. Yet when love is true, it brings calm. The waters of the soul become still, and in that stillness you begin to see clearly who you are and where you are called to go. This is why intimacy with the right person does not distract you from your path, but strengthens it. Their love steadies you, anchoring you to your own truth, so that even in the storms of life you remain aligned. This clarity often extends beyond the personal and into the collective. When you are aligned with yourself, you naturally become aligned with the world around you. The right partner not only encourages you to pursue your own purpose, but also inspires you to contribute more meaningfully to life itself. You may find yourself more compassionate, more courageous, more willing to serve others because the love you receive has reminded you of your own value. It is a simple yet profound truth. When the soul is nourished, it does not hoard its gifts, it shares them, and the right intimacy transforms you into a vessel through which your purpose flows into the world. Consider how many dreams have been lost, not because they were impossible, but because they were starved of encouragement. Consider how many callings remain unfulfilled because a person was bound to relationships that demanded smallness rather than growth. Contrast that with the flourishing that occurs when love becomes fertile ground for purpose. History is filled with examples, writers who credit their muse, leaders who speak of the strength they drew from a partner's belief, artists who confess that love gave them the courage to create. Yet we need not look only to history. In our own lives, we can see the quiet but undeniable ways that love can either diminish or empower. When you are with the wrong person, life feels like a constant battle to hold on to yourself. You are pulled away from your core, drained by the endless need to prove your worth. But with the right person, you no longer fight to be seen. You are seen. You no longer battle for validation. You are validated, and in this recognition, energy is freed. That energy, once wasted in conflict, is now available for creation, for vision, for purpose. This is why clarity arises so naturally in the presence of true intimacy. It is not that the right person gives you purpose, but that their love clears away the illusions, fears, and doubts that once obscured it. They remind you of what you already knew deep within, but had forgotten. This clarity can feel like awakening from a long sleep. You open your eyes and realize that the path was always there before you, waiting to be walked. You begin to see connections you once missed, opportunities you once ignored, strengths you once denied. It is as if the fog has lifted and the horizon has come into view. And though the path may still be difficult, though challenges will still arise, you move forward with a sense of certainty that was absent before. For now, you are not walking in confusion but in alignment, supported by the quiet but powerful affirmation of love that tells you, you are exactly where you need to be. Keep going. In this way, intimacy with the right person becomes more than companionship. It becomes a catalyst for transformation, a force that sharpens your vision and awakens your calling. Love ceases to be merely about comfort or pleasure and reveals itself as a profound source of direction. For when the soul is truly nourished, it cannot help but move toward its destiny. And the presence of the right partner makes this journey not only clearer but more possible, reminding you that purpose is not something to be feared or chased, but something to be lived, boldly and unapologetically, in the fullness of who you are. When intimacy with the right person unfolds, there is a revelation that transcends the physical realm, something that touches the deepest chambers of the soul. It is as though you step into a sanctuary where the boundaries of individuality soften, where the I and the you dissolve into a greater whole. This union does not erase the self, but rather expands it. It is not about becoming less of who you are, but more open, more attuned, more alive. In this space, you sense that life itself is speaking through your bond, whispering that you are not isolated fragments, but threads woven into the same eternal tapestry. Time itself bends in these moments. What seems like minutes stretches into hours, and silence becomes a language richer than words. You may find yourself simply sitting beside your partner, with no need to speak, and yet feeling more understood than you have in entire conversations with others. This is because true intimacy does not depend on words, but on presence. It is the deep recognition that another soul stands beside you, not as an intruder or a competitor, but as a companion in the mystery of existence. Think of lovers walking by the ocean, watching the waves rise and fall. Outwardly, nothing extraordinary is happening, and yet within, a sacred stillness awakens. The sea becomes a mirror of their union, vast, uncontainable, timeless. In that moment, it is not just two individuals walking, it is life itself, moving in harmony, a union that reflects the eternal dance of creation. These are not poetic exaggerations, but real experiences known to anyone who has touched this level of connection. Modern science, though it often avoids the language of the sacred, offers its own confirmation. Researchers studying couples who share deep emotional and physical intimacy find that their nervous systems synchronize. Their heartbeats begin to align, their breathing falls into rhythm, and their brainwaves echo each other. What the mystics described as union, science now measures as resonance. This is more than biology. It is the body reflecting a truth that the soul already knows. You are one, not in possession, but in essence. Union beyond the physical also transforms the way we perceive love itself. In superficial relationships, intimacy can feel transactional, a search for validation, a means of escaping loneliness. But with the right person, intimacy ceases to be an escape and becomes a revelation. It shows you that love is not something you grasp at, but something you enter into. It is not born from fear of being alone, but from the joy of discovering that togetherness opens a doorway to the divine. This truth has been recognized across cultures. In mystical traditions, the union of two souls has often been seen as an echo of the union between the human and the divine. In the poetry of Rumi, the beloved is both the human partner and the face of God. In tantric philosophy, intimacy is a sacred ritual through which divine energy flows. Even in the Christian mystics, love between two souls is described as a reflection of God's eternal embrace. These traditions point to the same truth. When intimacy is right, it becomes a ladder leading upward, a glimpse of eternity breaking into the ordinary. In everyday life, you may experience this in the smallest of gestures. Holding your partner's hand while crossing a street may suddenly fill you with a sense of safety and belonging that transcends the moment. Sharing laughter over something trivial can feel like a prayer of gratitude. Watching them sleep may stir within you the awe of witnessing something holy. These are not grandiose events. They are revelations hidden in the ordinary, reminders that love sanctifies life. This kind of union also challenges us. It demands that we surrender the illusion of complete separateness, the ego's insistence on control. To experience union beyond the physical, you must allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be truly seen. That is why intimacy with the wrong person often feels draining or unsafe, because vulnerability is exploited rather than cherished. But with the right person, vulnerability becomes strength. You can lay down your defenses, knowing that what you reveal will not be used against you but held with tenderness. And in that surrender, you encounter not only your partner, but also the divine presence that flows between you. Consider a story of an elderly couple who had spent 50 years together. When asked about the secret to their enduring bond, the husband replied, "I no longer know where she ends and I begin. Her joys are my joys, her sorrows my sorrows. We are not two lives, we are one life shared." This is not the loss of individuality, but its highest fulfillment. For when two lives merge in love, each becomes more radiant, more whole. Union beyond the physical reminds us that love is not just human, it is cosmic. It is the force that sustains life, that calls galaxies into being, that pulses in the rhythm of the seasons and the beating of our hearts. When you are intimate with the right person, you taste this truth directly. You realize that love is not something invented by human beings, but the very fabric of existence. To love deeply is to align yourself with the energy that sustains the stars. Such intimacy cannot be forced or manufactured. It arrives as grace, as a gift, but when it does, it transforms everything. You no longer see your relationship as an isolated story. You see it as part of the greater unfolding of life. And in those sacred moments of union, you glimpse eternity, not in some distant afterlife, but here now in the embrace of the one who holds your heart. So, what happens spiritually when you are intimate with the right person? Your soul is recognized, your wounds find healing, your energy is renewed, your purpose becomes clearer, and you touch a union that transcends the physical, reminding you of life's eternal mystery. Such intimacy is rare, but when it comes, it is not by accident. It is an invitation to step into a higher form of love, one that does not just hold your body, but awakens your spirit.